Well, good evening, everyone. I'm back on Thursday nights after being in Providence, Rhode Island, Necronomicon. Uh, Hope everybody had a good weekend. Oh, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. And yeah, so what should we talk about? I'm kind of tired, but I'll try to I'll make this as long as I can. Well, first of all, Necronomicon. Um, Flying there was smooth, no problems. Got there. Alan Hughes was kind enough to share his room with me. Thanks, Alan. And then Thursday night, I'm trying to remember Thursday night. Shit. Friday, I'll tell you what I did not do. I did not do a lot of panels. I mainly wanted to hang out with people this time, and that's what I did. The dealers' rooms are a great way to do that. So anyway, I hung out in the dealer's room on Friday morning. Friday at lunch, Paul had asked me to go to lunch with him and John. I went, Paul Trimley and John Langan, and I went to lunch with him. Those two, excuse me, and Simon Stranzis. That was a lot of fun. We went to the Mexican place there. Really good food. Thanks, Dave. And I don't actually know if I'm the best person to ask about the convention because uh, I did not go to all the panels or extras that I usually do. Yeah, the dealer's room is awesome. The that was a nice lunch with those guys. I went back to the dealer's room, and the thing about the dealer's room is, well, Niels is always the organizer is always kind enough to give me a table in the dealer's room, which they're expensive. So I had Laird's new book, which actually doesn't come out till next month. I had Kelly's new book, Kelly Young, and then of course I told the other panelists that, as usual, they could bring their stuff. So Mark Rainey had some books there. Pete Rollick, Bridget had her stuff there. She sold her Necronomicon, and let's see who else had stuff there. I'm trying to think. Sorry, I'm a little tired. Uh, uh, so on on Friday, we went over to the mall next door, which I had no idea was there. I thought it was just a couple of shops, and it turned out to be like this 4 or 5 story mall, which had a theater in it. So we were walking around there for a little bit. By we, I mean Bridget and her husband and I and a couple of the others. And I saw that there was a theater there, and I said, we should see Alien Romulus. And so we decided to do that Saturday night, and we did that. That was a lot of fun. I would say that Alien Romulus is okay. It's definitely watchable. It's not Alien 3 by any means, but it's also not Alien or Aliens. But I don't think anything can be. It takes place between Alien and Aliens. So there you go. Um, there there were a lot of. Let me know if you can still see me and hear me. Internet looks wonky. There were a lot of dealers in the dealer's room, and I wish I had money because I would have bought a hell of a lot of stuff. The Yeah, it was definitely worth watching. Alan went with us too. Sorry, Alan. And yeah, I got to say, Alan, you made my stay a lot easier than it would have been. They set me up with a roommate, but and actually a very nice guy, Santiago Crusoe, who you should look up his art online and buy some. He's really, really good. But it's not the same as rooming with a friend, so that was great. And then I managed to get break my glasses, lose my phone charger. I say lose, it was stolen. I left it on a windowsill before the live podcast, and when I got back, like 25 minutes later, it was gone. And I had some scotch tape with it too, because I had the idea I was going to scotch tape up my glasses, which failed utterly. But the scotch tape was also gone. And wow, the thing about petty theft is it's just so petty. I checked in with the hotel and with Neil's, and nobody turned it in. So, um, Brandon says, Mike, do you prefer physical book reading or reading ebooks? Ever since I got my tablet, it's all Kindle books, and I saved tons of money since then. I buy a lot of Kindle books. By a lot, I mean several a week at $1.99 because I get those daily emails about the deals. For example, the other day I bought The Wolf's Hour by Robert R. McCammon, and that was great timing because I was actually in the mood for a werewolf story. And it's been a long time since I read that book. Uh, but both Kindle and print have their negatives and positives. I mean, with Kindle, you can take a huge library with you everywhere you go, right? And one thing I love about Kindle is I can highlight because I do a lot of highlighting. And those highlights will survive, whether in all of your on all of your devices now and in the future. Um, so I like that. The other thing I like about Kindle is that my eyes are getting worse and I can make the font bigger. So so that's nice. But if you were in my office right now and looked around, I mean, I've got shelves everywhere just packed with books. So I still love physical books as well. Very much so. The uh, the thing people say about physical books is that how do I want to say this? People say that you can lose your Kindle books. For example, if Amazon decides to yank it away from you for whatever reason. I don't think I've ever had that happen in the 10 years or so that I've had a Kindle, but I have heard that it's happened. On the other hand, I have been through two house fires in my life, and let me tell you, there's nothing physical that you have that you can't lose just as easily, if not more easily in some cases. And so I love them both. I'm not going to pick one or the other, but I do read a hell of a lot of Kindle books. There's my Kindle right there. Uh, I also have DC Universe Infinite, so it's it's for a yearly price you get just about every DC comic that they've put out. I mean, there are very few exceptions. And if you have Ultra, you get the new comics a month, I think, after they come out. And everything costs money, but if I compare that to the money I spent on comics in years past, when I had a little bit more money, but just as a comparison, I definitely spent way more than that per year. And the thing is about comics, I love them. I love the art. I love the stories. I love DC superheroes and villains. But it's pretty easy to read a comic in just a few minutes. if I take my time, 15 minutes, and when you spend $5 on a comic that you read in 15 minutes, it does not seem worth the money for sure. So, um, yeah, you can, yeah, definitely switch to Kindle, Brian, but don't think of it as a switch. Doesn't mean you have to get rid of your physical books. Just think of it as another way that you can read, just like audiobooks. So, um, I've heard that, Alan, that people have better recall with print books. Um, I don't know about myself. I can just tell you that it helps me to be able to highlight. So that helps my recall quite a bit. I haven't read that, and I like Keanu Reeves, and I'm interested in the book. But then I saw his name is on the cover as well as is it China Mieville? And I saw an interview where Keanu Reeves said that he didn't write anything in the book, which turned me off a bit. Um, he said it was based on an idea that he had, and that's great, but that doesn't. I mean, I get it. His name's on the cover so that they can sell more books. Um, but that was a little bit of a letdown. Um, I did get the sample and read the first little bit of it, but it hasn't grabbed me yet. And I do like books about immortals that are done well. So Pete Rollick read a Kindle book one time. I'd have to see that to believe it. Yeah. So um, after the movie, I was thinking of going to see. Someone did a dramatic reading of The Horla by Guy de Maupassant, and I love that story. But it happened to be in the other hotel. I told the guys that if it was in our hotel, I probably would have gone to see it, but instead I went to bed. And yeah, you know what? We're going to talk about it on the podcast this Sunday because at this visit, I am definitely not the best representative of what went on. I was in the airport with William Holloway. Got to spend quite a lot of time with him. Really nice guy, great writer, and he was talking about. See, this was Sunday. Yeah, he was talking about a puppet show that he had gone to see the previous night, and he was just talking about the sheer creativity that was on display at Necronomicon, which is true, and art for art's sake, which I love. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making money, but art for art's sake is amazing. And I think I keep hiccuping tonight. I don't know if my uh, internet is just being too slow tonight. Um, so we'll give you more details about the convention on Sunday. Um, when I got the Wolf's Hour on Kindle, usually the second thing I do if I think I'm going to enjoy a book is I look for it on Audible, especially if I still have a credit. And it is available on Audible in two versions. I think I'm about to sneeze. Um, the first version is just a regular reading, and the second version is an audio drama version. Yeah, Holloway's been on the podcast in the distant past, but I need to get him back on. I told him that too. Um, and this audio drama of The Wolf's Hour is done by Graphic Audio, who they're very, very good, and they've done all of the DC Comics audio dramas that I've heard. Well, almost all of them. Um, they lost their contract with DC Comics for whatever reason, and I don't know why because I think they did a fantastic job. So anyway, when I saw it was graphic audio, I spent a credit on it, and it's great. The thing about when a graphic audio, when they do an audio drama from a book, I've noticed, unlike a lot of other audio dramas, they don't try to adapt it, like you'd adapt a movie, like some audio dramas do. They stay as close to the source material as possible, and I mean, excuse me, and I mean everything to the letter. Like it's almost a reading of sorts, and but it's a reading that is very well done with different actors. I'm not saying this right. It's not a direct reading, or otherwise, it is an audio drama, and some things are eliminated from the book, and some things are added, but it's very, very close to the book. If you listen to the audio drama and then looked at the book, you'd feel like you were reading the same story in the same order with the same events, because I've been comparing it with the book. And anyway, graphic audio, their kind of their motto is a movie in your mind, and which you could describe all audio drama, including old time radio, as being. Um, yeah, very very different styles, but both are good. Different than Big Finish. Big Finish does, for those who don't know, does a lot of Doctor Who, hell of a lot of Doctor Who audio dramas, and you know, I'm sure everyone listening probably knows this better than I do, but they've been able to use a lot of Doctor Who actors to do them as well. I can't remember it, but I yeah, I do remember it. It's called Doctor Who Deep Time, and it's not an audio drama. It's a book, but it's on Audible as well, and the reader is really really good. I thought it was actually Peter Capaldi doing the Peter Capaldi um, parts. I forget his name. I think it's the guy who does the Daleks. Anyway, I thought, man, this is why I haven't tried my hand at narration, because man, there are guys that are just this damn good, with the different voices and so forth. I suppose if I did narration, which I do on Tuesday nights, sort of, I'm better off, doing the kind of narration like, a Lovecraft story where the whole thing is one voice. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree, Brandon. I do appreciate art for art's sake, and that includes writing. But you know, it's the same with the podcast. Um, it's nice to get paid for what you love to do. Whether that's a lot or a little, it's nice to get paid for it. You know, what my wife likes to do is teach. She gets paid for it, and gets health insurance for our family. I know my wife, if we won the lottery, she'd she'd still go back to work tomorrow. She loves it that much. So yeah, money is a good thing. I've had money and I've not had money, and I'll tell you that having money is better. So yeah, I don't know. I can't comment. I know the kind of stuff that my wife goes through at at her school, but it's incredibly rewarding for her. So I don't think. not to speak for her, I don't think she would describe it as brutal. Of course, it depends on where you are too. She wouldn't describe it as brutal. She's in a low income area, but by and large, they're very respectful kids. She teaches high school English. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, um, I I had to go home early is the thing. I woke up Sunday morning, and I'm almost always in some sort of pain, but I woke up Sunday morning and I could barely move. In addition to the chronic illness, I have some disc problems in my back, and if anyone listening has disc problems, you know how painful that can be. And you can do some things and nothing happens, and then you could do other things that you think wouldn't bother you, and you're in agony. Well, I woke up Sunday morning in agony. I was just like, called Danielle. I was like, if there's any way possible, I got to come home because I was actually supposed to come home, fly out on Monday. And long story short, she was on the phone for a while and found a way to move my ticket to Sunday. Of course, then I don't know if you guys have heard the horror stories, but a hell of a lot of people had problems flying out of Providence um, on Sunday and Sunday night and Monday. Alan, I think you got out in the nick of time, man. I'm glad you got that earlier flight, or it was changed to earlier, or whatever it was. But you beat it all. Yeah. Um. So anyway, for my part, I got to went to a layover in Charlotte, which this was nice. William Holloway was on that flight. He lives in Austin, so from Charlotte he was going to go to Austin. I was going to go to Dallas Fort Worth Airport, and his was somewhat delayed. Mine was delayed by 3 hours. So basically, I left at like 12:30 in the morning, which was originally the time I was supposed to arrive in Dallas. So that was fun, but I just sat in the airport and read, and when I couldn't read anymore, when my brain was too fried, I put on Angel on my phone and with my earbuds and watched that. Turned my mind off. So yeah, Alan, I'm glad you got out of there, man. But I'm sure the rest of the crew, Bridget and Pete and Mark Greeny, will have more to say about Necronomicon on Sunday and everything that they experienced. By the way, if you haven't read the Horla, it's great. It's in fact, some say that the Horla was an inspiration for Cthulhu, for Lovecraft. Um, Let me look this up so I know I'm remembering it right. Yeah, written in 1887 by Guido Massapant. There's this 1966 film based on it. Uh, by the way, CBS Radio Mystery Theater did a version of it that wasn't too bad. Um, Quoting Wikipedia, the story has been cited as an inspiration for Lovecraft's The Call of Cthulhu. And then I think the author actually went crazy after that, for real. So, yeah, I'm glad I finally made it home too. Man, I was I was tired Monday and Tuesday, really. Still tired, really. But I've been trying to get some work done. All right. So I talked about the Wolf's Hour. Oh, now here's an old Dean Koontz book that's actually pretty good. His older stuff I enjoyed and still enjoy. Twilight Eyes is you want to fill up your Kindle, man. Twilight Eyes is $1.99 today on Kindle. Twilight Eyes by Dean Koontz, and that's the story of the carnival. Yeah. Let's see here. Twilight Eyes. There we go. All right. The synopsis is they're out there waiting, watching, unseen by normal eyes, but all too visible to Slim Mackenzie, a young man blessed or cursed by twilight eyes. Lurking in the darkest shadows of an eerie, moonlit carnival, feeding their twisted needs with human suffering, and fiendishly plotting the downfall of the human race. Aren't they always? And it's set in the 60s when carnivals were still in vogue, I guess. I don't know if there's going to be an adaptation to Matt Ruff's Lovecraft Country. I had him on the show when Lovecraft Country was out. The but and he's a nice guy and everything, but in retrospect, I enjoyed the first two episodes of it, and then not so much after that. So that's just me. I could be wrong. All right, here's another one I found out about. A couple more. A couple more good ones that I started reading that at the airport that you guys should check out. All right, so this one's both are by authors I haven't heard of. The first one is called Cosmovorous. That's Cosmovorous. Cosmovorous. And let me pull up the synopsis. I'm exactly 20% through this book, and I'm enjoying it. All right, here we go. The year is 1993. Uh, it's actually titled Cosmovorous, a cosmic horror novel. The year is 1993. Esmeralda has been living on the fringes of society for as long as she can remember, until an incident unlocks a cache or cache? I think it's cache. Unlocks a cache of nightmarish memories, visions of a bizarre town in the desert, shadowy recollections of a mysterious woman, the pain of an ultimate betrayal, and the shame of a bargain made in blood. Now she must confront a twisted world where abominations indulge in sadistic pleasures. There she will learn the secrets of the ravenous cosmos. And the thing I like about this so far, yeah, cosmovorous just like that, but one word. The thing that I like about this so far is it's so real. I've lived air quote on the fringes of society like Esmeralda when I was young. And you know what? In those same years, the early 90s, you know, um, she's working in a bar. Um, I worked in restaurants, pizza joints, things like that. Anything without any real responsibility because I had enough of that after I was a manager of a Brugger's. And, just her self doubts, um, how she deals with those. For example, she takes a swift snort of cocaine before the night starts. which I'm not advocating. I'm just saying this is a real person with real issues, and sometimes people don't solve those issues in the healthiest way because we're all human and we make mistakes or we don't have anyone to guide us. Um, oh, hang on. Dave says, I appreciate you having this get together tonight as I had some surgery earlier in the week and can't do anything with these stitches. Oh man, I'm sorry, Dave. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of surgery was it? And don't answer if that's too personal. But I hope you're not in too much pain, man. And I thank you for saying that because I'm so tired, and Danielle's going to bed. I was this close to going. I'm still recovering from Necronomicon, and we'll start this next week, but I didn't. Um, but anyway, so Esmeralda she's got a lot of pain inside her, and she's not necessarily dealing with it in the very best way, and a lot of us have been there. Plus, I like stories set in the '90s. When video stores were still around, and very few people were on the internet. I mean, I love the internet and everything. I just like that. The book I'm working on, actually, guys, which I hope you'll buy it when it comes out. I'm hoping for next year, but please don't quote me. Because number one is the podcast for me, and then as far as work stuff, and then number two is working on the book. So it gets written slowly, but it's set in the mid '90s, um, at a video store actually. So, well, I'm glad they removed it, man. So anyway, yeah, check out Cosmovorus because this thing is just insanely good reviews, and I don't think I stumbled onto this. If I no, William Holloway told me about it. Yeah, so he's read it too. Um, all right, here's one that I did stumble on Kindle Unlimited. It's called Ripe. Um, and I've read, I don't know, probably 20% of this one too. And it's very, very good. Everyone remembers exactly where they were the day the ships came. What no one knew back then, though, was that there were people who were already expecting them. Scottish psychologist Elspeth McGann thinks her patient Lester Rains, a suave, enigmatic man who claims to have been alive for 2,000 years, and to be part of a team of extraterrestrial farmers waiting on Earth for an alien harvest, is a delusional schizophrenic. But when vast ships suddenly appear over Moscow and vacuum up 50,000 people in a matter of hours, she realizes she must track down the elusive Rains. In her search, she stumbles upon a group who are already trying to track down the farmers. This band of renegades is led by Cassius C. Trenton, a former NSA analyst who has been on the run since he broke the code on a mystery transmission beamed into space from Earth years ago, and which bore a single chilling message: ripe. With the aliens set to return, and some world leaders complicit in their plans, Elspeth and Trenton must seek out Rains and find a way of escaping the impending apocalypse, a hunt that takes them from Edinburgh to the White House, only to discover that the hardest harvest is just beginning. Now, that sounds like it could be really hokey, but it's not. It's very well written. I like it a lot. Um, yeah. So it's called Ripe, and there are two ripes that I see on Amazon. This ripe is by James Hyder, Hider, Hyder, James Hyder. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. So, so let's see here. How's everybody doing? Okay, what else we got? Told you about the Wolf Sour, Twilight Eyes, Cosmovorus, and Ripe. And that's what was the weather like? Oh my God. It was rainy and cooler, and I loved it. It would get down into the 70s at night. And here in Texas, it is not in the 70s at night. I'll just put it that way. Over 100 every day with no clouds in the sky and no rain. And it was a welcome break. So, so yeah. Oh, I got, of course, I got Uber. Had an Uber pick me up um, from the airport to go to the hotel. And he spoke barely any English at all, and I don't speak Spanish. So I pulled up Google Translate on my phone, and he pulled it up on his phone, and we were having a conversation that way the whole time. It was pretty amazing. We're living in the future. Oh man, Kelly, I'm jealous. Well, Edward, I don't know if you missed the beginning, but I'm not the best person to ask because I made a decision to mainly hang out in the dealer's room and go to lunch with friends and things like that. But that was the highlight for me. I had a table with the other panelists at in the dealer's room, and people would just walk by, and if I knew them, we'd have conversations, and if they knew me, but I didn't know them, if they knew me from the podcast, they would say something nice about it, and but that for me was a lot of fun. It was just very laid back and relaxed. But we'll talk about it on Sunday with Bridget and Pete and Mark Rainey, and they'll give you a lot more highlights than I can give you. So, but usually I do go to panels and other things. I just made the decision this year to yeah, I go every time. It's every 2 years. Um, yeah, if you're wondering whether you should go, there's absolutely no question whether you should go. It'll rock your world if you've not been to it before. I had several people. Mark Rainey told me he'd never been to one, and he is hooked. And I heard that from more than one person who had not been there before. Um, yeah. So, oh, I heard, and then somebody sent me the video. Actually, it was Jeff Thomas. Jeff Thomas received the Robert Bloch Award this time, and he told me that they mentioned my name when they were handing out the award, and I said, would they say something like that? Damn, Mike Davis. But apparently, what they said was, "Is is Mike Davis here?" When they were talking about previous recipients of the Robert Bloch Award. Um, I received it 2 years ago. They Neil said, "Is Mike Davis here?" Oh, he's not here. He's so I can't believe I'm even repeating this. I'm getting red. Say he's so selfless. He's probably out changing a tire somewhere. I was probably in bed at that hour, or I might have. I don't know what night it was. Maybe I was at the movie. So, yeah, I did great. I broke my glasses, lost my phone charger. lost my laptop charger, lost my earbuds. Um, it was awesome. Yeah. I mean, it was awesome. Those parts weren't awesome. They did a panel on Joe Pulver, and they did a panel on Willem Pugmire. For those of you who know Joe Pulver, you probably think I should have been on that panel, and I would agree with you. And so would Niels. This is just one of those things that happens. It it, it hurt a little bit, but it wasn't deliberate. I'm sure it wasn't Niels who put this panel together. It was probably someone who was helping him, because this is a huge um, Necronomicon's a huge thing, and he needs a lot of help. Um, what I don't get though is why I mean, Cisco was on it. Michael Cisco was on it. People who were good friends with Joe. Pete Rollick. I mean, I was really good friends with Joe, as you guys might know. But they had a guy moderating it who didn't even know who Joe was. And I just was sitting there in the audience thinking, what the fuck? What the fuck is this? And I don't know why they offered it to this guy, or more importantly, why he didn't have the grace to say, I didn't know this guy, maybe you should get somebody else. But that would have been the thing to say. Um, and I had several people that were upset that I wasn't on there. Look, it is one of those things that happens. I understand that. What I don't understand is first of all, Joe's friends talking about Joe on a panel. We don't need a bloody moderator. Okay, we don't. Uh, so his spot would have probably been better taken by me, and that's me more upset than I usually get over things. If I had been the guy, I would have said, "Hey, I didn't know Joe Pulver, so you should probably get somebody else for this particular panel." That's what I would have done. Anyway, what we did do the next day on the live Lovecraft eZine podcast, if you guys saw it, we did talk a lot about Joe, and then we talked about Rick quite a bit, and then we talked about the convention, how much we were enjoying it, from different, our different viewpoints, and it was a lot of fun. The live podcast was a lot of fun. Um, yeah, I don't say shit like that to people very often, just when I think it's warranted, you know. And if the theater is completely bloody empty and somebody comes and sits right next to me, I'm not going to be friendly. I got to tell you, somebody I don't know. I mean, sits right next to me. I'm not going to be friendly. Um, but that was so that's what happened with the pullover panel. Like I said, the live podcast was a lot of fun, and so what else can I say? I was rereading a book called The Harrowing on the way up there too, by Alexandra Sokolov. If you guys haven't read that, you should check it out. I was about to say something about it, but I won't. No, I will say a little bit about it. I won't say the possible spoiler thing I was going to say. It's uh, it's set in a New England college, probably the sometime in the aughts, and basically it's New England, so it's Thanksgiving, and it's real rainy and stormy, and everybody and the building that these students are in, I think it's called Menden Hall, is really old. Again, New England, and pretty much all the kids leave for the Thanksgiving holiday except for this girl, the protagonist, and four other students. And so then mayhem, mayhem, mayhem. But it goes in a really clever way that I didn't expect. So, no, I was not on the Pugmire panel. I was really good friends with Willem, um, but I felt that there were people who knew him even better than I did that would have been better. That's how I felt about it. And I heard that the Willem panel was really good. And that's not to say the Polar panel wasn't. I mean, Pete and Michael Cisco and everybody on the panel did a great job. It was just like, you know, funny when I was having lunch with Paul and John and Simon, then like 25 minutes later, Cisco and a few others walk in and sit right next to us. So that was funny. And when we were leaving, Cisco was like, in his quiet way, was saying, "What the hell was going on? Why weren't you on that panel?" So yeah, I love A Night in the Lonesome October. That's one of those books that I reread pretty much every Halloween or every October, I should say. Um, yeah, I can't say enough good about the book. That's an amazing book. Um, it's just so it's just it's one of those perfect books, you know. And it's Lovecraftian. Um, yeah, if you're wondering whether you should read that A Night in the Lonesome October, then you definitely should read it. Yeah, no question at all. A lot of nostalgia in there. You'll see what I mean. Yeah. So, so what else do we have to talk about? Like I said, we will talk about Necronomicon on Sunday. Um, hmm, what's what are you guys reading? Oh, hey Chaz. Bye Chaz. Yeah. So the books that I mentioned, I don't think you'll go wrong with them. Then of course, I hope you guys all have Laird's book pre-ordered. Um, Not a Speck of Light, which comes out next month. So there were like 22 or 23 lucky people who got it at Necronomicon before before it's available. Anno Dracula, I've heard that's really good, but I haven't read it. Yeah, I've heard it's really good. And then what else? Oh. Listen to this. I read this years ago, and I'm going to reread it soon. But if you're into superheroes, you should read this book called Devil's Cape. It's by Rob Rogers, just like it sounds. And it's probably the most original superhero book that I've ever read. Seriously. Um, it's not it's not a bunch of spandex, unrealistic stuff. It's well, as far as its element, it's realistic. Um, I don't know. I may rethink that statement later. I don't know. But anyway, if you like superheroes at all, then you need to read Devil's Cape. I mean, seriously. And it's now available in Kindle too, which I think that's fairly recent, like the last year or two. I wish it was available on audio because I'd love to just listen to it. So yeah, anyway, that's Devil's Cape by Rob Rogers, and then someone mentioned Sherlock Holmes. Um, Dave, you mentioned Sherlock Holmes. Read this later. Read this after Devil's Cape, but this is a prequel. Apparently, I haven't read it yet. I got it because I think it was Alan that told me to. Um, Sherlock Holmes: The Adventure of the Pirates of Devil's Cape by Rob Rogers. So, and then last but not least, for those of you who are Angel and Buffy nerds like me slash Spike, there's a book called Bloody Fool for Love, a Spike prequel, and it's set during the Boxer Rebellion. So it's really good. Of course, Spike doesn't have a soul or anything, but can't help but root for the guy. And yeah. How many of you have read the Harry Dresden novels, the Harry Dresden series? I'm I'm trying. I see. The thing is, there was in 2007, there was a TV series based on the Dresden Files, and it didn't go anywhere. There's only 10 episodes available. You can rent them on it or buy them on Amazon, or I'm sure other places too. And that was I had heard of the Dresden Files, but I'd never read them, and that was my introduction to them. And my point is, I really like the series a lot. Um, but I've tried to get into the reading the series, and I just can't get into it. Um, yeah, see, I feel the exact opposite. I think it's just personal preference. Um, maybe it has to do with the first one that you're introduced to, or the first one that you discover. So, who knows? I'm trying to read Stormfront occasionally, but I keep putting it down and picking up something else. So, all right. So, anyway, guys, I think I've done all I can do on this Thursday after Necronomicon, but I'll be back on Sunday, of course, at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, with a guest and with hopefully everybody on the panel. And in the meantime, Dave, I hope you get to feeling better. I hope everybody has a great Friday and Saturday, and thanks for watching and hanging out with me for a little bit on Thursday night. I'll see you on Sunday.